Today, I'm actually getting a hearing test for military health requirements. Some of you know I'm an Army Reserve chaplain now, and so I'm getting my hearing tested. And I think about that. I think about that I struggle with hearing. You can ask my family, right? Am I a good listener to my wife? Am I a good listener to my children? I know I got to work on that, but we're here to talk about our relationship with God. And so let's talk about our ability to listen to Him, right? Jesus over and over again in the Gospels always says, he who has ears, let him hear, right? Listen up. When you hear that word behold, when you read that in the scriptures, behold means lean in, listen up, listen to what God is doing. And so the question that I have for you and for me is, how are we doing in listening to God? And what areas in our life are we called to listen to Him? Jesus said, right, my sheep hear my voice. Do you hear His voice? What I've learned in my life, and I think this is true for you as well, and if it's not, consider this, that I can hear God's voice, that I listen to Him, certainly when I open up the Bible, right? And it's not just about reading the Bible, but it's about asking God, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to do about this truth? Help me to understand, right? And so when we read God's Word, the Bible, right, God has spoken not just to people thousands of years ago, but to me still today. And I believe that, and over again, right, God directly speaks to me, like when He speaks to Joshua or to Peter, right, or through Paul to Timothy, or the church in Ephesus as He speaks to them. I can't help but hear that same word that was written for them, that was spoken to them. It's as if God is still speaking to me, and it is true that He is still speaking to me. God's word actually testifies to itself, right? This is a living and active God's very word that is always speaking to us. So I want to encourage you, read the Bible. If you want to hear God's voice, read the Bible and simply ask Him, God, what are you saying to me? What are you saying to me through this word? Another area of my life where I hear God's voice, and many of you have heard God's voice before, I want to encourage you to hear God's voice, is prayer, right? When we're just talking to God. And that sounds contrary to what I'm talking about. When I'm talking to God, right, it's a conversation. And so in my prayer life, what I'm learning more and more is to slow down enough and actually ask Him, right, what do you think about this as I'm sharing this with you? And here at Trinity, we're actually going through the Lord's Prayer in our weekend sermon series. And so we just learned to pray, Our Father in heaven, right? As we preach that and teach that, and as Jesus taught us to pray that, right? God, what are you saying to me in that? And clearly, right, I'm your child, and come to me confidently, right? When you pray, just want to ask you to ask God, what do you want me to know about this, right? Slow down your prayer life and sense God's truth, sense God's voice as you pray out how He taught us to pray. But certainly, right, when you ask Him a question, when you're giving Him something, God, what do you want me to do with this? And listen. Right? Listen. Another area of my life where I sense God speaking to me is through circumstances. And so circumstances can be good and circumstances can be tough. Right? And so I got some home things going on with the bathtub, with some plumbing things, a garage door, other things. God, what's going on here? My boiler's falling apart. God, what are you trying to communicate to me? What can I learn about you and me through this? And certainly what I'm learning is just to trust in Him, to take a deep breath, right? One thing at a time. Don't be discouraged in all things in life, right? Circumstances, right? How does God speak to us in circumstances? And what I'm learning, and I think what you're hearing me say, is in all areas of our life, prayer, reading the Bible, and circumstances, God, what are you trying to teach me through this? That's the art of listening, to be able to ask a question. That's what makes a good listener, and to listen to the answer to that question. So the fourth area, when I think about hearing God's voice in my life, is through people, right? Certainly people can speak truth to me. People will challenge me. People aren't perfect. And so God, what are you teaching me through them? And I do believe this, that God uses people in our life to teach us and to share His truth with us as we go. In marriage relationship, we always say this, and I say this, right? Jenny, my wife, she's good for me. God, what are you trying to teach me through her? I believe in the marriage relationship that sanctification happens best, but in all relationships, not just in the marriage relationship. God, what are you teaching me What are you trying to convey to me through them, through this relationship, that we could be sensitive in all areas of our life, that we would be able to listen, not just through the reading of God's word and the hearing of God's word, not just in our prayer life, not just through circumstances, but also through people. God's always speaking, that we would hear his voice, that we'd be his children, and that we'd respond to his voice by faith. As you move forward today, do a hearing test and just say, God, I want to hear from you. Open up his word, ask him a question. Spend some time in prayer, ask him a question. Think about the circumstances in your life, ask him a question about those. And then think about the people in your life. God, why are they in my life? What are you trying to teach me through them? And listen. And I pray that you pass the test, and I pray that I passed my hearing test as well today. Be blessed. We hope you're able to tune in again next week with us.